Staff Sergeant George Andreas Pagani spends a lot of time with his lawyer, preparing for a court-martial so Pagani can prove he's not a coward. His attorney, former military prosecutor Rich Travis, says Pagani's military service record speaks for itself.
Unquestionable loyalty, integrity, and dedication to mission. Displays exemplary moral courage in all situations.
But the situation on Pagani's first night in Iraq changed that. Following a tense convoy ride into central Iraq, his Special Forces unit faced a horrific image of war, a mangled body of a dead Iraqi.
Seeing a dead guy in a half-unzipped body bag. And that was really all there was to it. It's not as sensationalistic as it has been portrayed.
His reaction surprised him. He felt panicked, out of control. He says he even hallucinated.
And seeing the worst and hallucinating and the buildings caving in and we're, under fire and just the weirdest things. And I didn't know what was going on, why I was so freaked out.
His reaction may have had little to do with war, his attorney says, and more to do with this drug. Pagani was taking Lariam, a drug also known as mefloquine that the Army gave him to prevent malaria. But Lariam also carries the risk of side effects, which the Pentagon outlines in this pamphlet. Some of the very symptoms Pagani says he experienced. The drug's manufacturer says extreme side effects are rare. It's not clear if Pagani's commanders in Iraq knew anything about Lariam's side effects. Their diagnosis of this Army Staff Sergeant was that he was a coward.
And I'm pretty much convinced, too, that while I was in Iraq, people there didn't know. And that's probably what led to this big mess that we're in right now.
The Army later backed off its charge of cowardice and instead offered Pagani an administrative hearing on a lesser charge. Fighting to clear his name, Pagani and his attorney opted for a court-martial.
You have a due process protection, a court-martial, cross-examination, calling witnesses, producing documents, having a judge determine the admissibility of evidence.
And Pagani says he has the evidence, diagnoses from 2 military doctors, from the Air Force and the Navy, that Lariam is the likely cause of his symptoms he's still suffering. But since he turned down the hearing nearly 6 months ago, he has heard nothing from the military. In a statement to CNN, U.S. Army Special Forces Command said, Pagani's case remains under consideration by the U.S. Army. His command is considering all information available, to include information pertaining to Staff Sergeant Pagani's health and medical status. It turns out Pagani's is one of 10 cases of Lariam toxicity the Navy has diagnosed among service members. And now the Navy, along with the Centers for Disease Control, are studying the phenomenon, already identifying several hundred service members, dating back to 2002, whose medical cases merit review.
There's a lot of guilt and shame that goes with that, too, being charged with cowardice in a time of war.
Pagani remains in legal limbo, still awaiting a chance to prove he's not a coward. Drew Griffin, CNN, Atlanta.